What is going on, everybody? Rebecca was nice enough to sit down and tell a little bit about her story, and people have found a lot of value from the past patient cases where we talked about stuff. So really excited to get into it. And I promise you, if you're watching this, you're not alone. We were just talking about that off camera. It's like part of why I like to do these is both of us have been through this, and it can be really scary and overwhelming. And you're like, I feel like I'm losing my sanity, and just understanding. I think even if I could have understood it at the time, I was not the only one in this situation. It would have at least helped a little bit with the mental side of things. And I think safe to say, Rebecca, you feel the same. But yeah, feel free to take it away and tell us a little bit about what was going on, the background of stuff, whatever kind of feels good to start with.
Yeah, so I think mine started when actually I was about 19. I'm 36 now, just for reference, so it's been a long time. It started with migraines, and it was manageable then. I was taking, the appropriate medicine that I needed to take and do all those things. And then fast forward to moving to another country, introducing new anxieties and stresses into my life, I started getting periods of vertigo. And it wasn't until I saw a chiropractor who kind of taught me about the Epley maneuver and how to deal with that. So, it was coming and going. I was starting to not get used to the dizziness, but it started introducing itself into my life. And it wasn't until, oddly enough, after my second COVID jab, 2 weeks later, I was at a bar watching rugby, looking up at a screen, and I looked down and the dizziness just didn't stop.
Yeah.
And I went home immediately, did the Epley maneuver, and it did nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it had anything to do with it, with the booster, if it was just really good, timing with, being in this position this whole time. But I just had this pain from my eye to my head, down my head, down my neck, down my shoulder. Epley maneuver wasn't doing anything. I had anxiety for the first time in my life. And that's when the Googling started, trying to figure out everything. I went to the eye doctor because I thought maybe I needed a new prescription. I went to the dentist thinking it might be TMJ, I think it's what it is.
Yep.
I saw a neurologist. I got an MRI. They saw nothing. I went to an ENT, got my ears checked. I went to the chiropractor again, nothing there. Got massages, horrible mistake.
We'll come back to that because I think that's, I always say that to people, but it's good to use a real life example of why that can not help. So we'll come back to that.
Yeah, more than happy to talk about that.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't actually until, so I live in Newcastle in the north of England. And so we're very far away from Newcastle's big, but we're far from big cities where we don't have as many resources to find specialists. But I was really lucky to find a dizzy specialist nearby who I'm going through all of this. And he actually called me and he was just like, he was the first person to tell me that I wasn't alone and it wasn't in my head, because I very much felt like it was in my head. So I saw them and they were like, you might have triple PD, but you need to be suffering from it for about 3 months before you're diagnosed with it. 3 months rolled around. They're just like, yeah, we can safely say you have triple PD. And from the pain, you have cervicogenic dizziness. So they put me through all of the tests and everything, but there wasn't much more they can do other than give me physio. And physio was working, but I needed something that I could do myself at home, because I couldn't just keep going to physio, getting this top up every week, and then it would just go back downhill. Like, it was just a Band-Aid effect at that point.
And they were doing a lot of kind of like more hands-on type stuff there.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it was really nice. Like, it did help at first, like for like a week or so, but then I couldn't, that wasn't maintainable. I needed things that I could take away. So, really, like, I know they say don't Google your symptoms, but if I didn't Google, I wouldn't have found you. Like, I was obsessed about it. And then I found you and I messaged you in October 2022 and told you everything. And we met immediately and just,
and if you're wondering why, if you're watching this and you're wondering why it took so long, Rebecca was nice enough to reach out over comments of a video of when I was kind of talking about another patient's case and be like, I'd be open to doing that. And I was like, heck yeah, let's do it. So we're kind of going in the Wayback Machine to talk about that. Which is odd. Couple notes and just to kind of provide context, I think like what you're describing is a very normal progression. Obviously it's unique, but often I had the same thing where there's like lower grade or intermittent dizziness issues where it's like, this is annoying, but not affecting my life. And I can kind of ignore it. And then often it's like periods of high stress, whether emotional, physical, or physiologic, certainly different kind of like medical things can create a physiologic stress, and we'll kind of leave out the whole, pandemic part. But and then you can get into a one thing where your neck is in a funny position, and basically it can be like a straw that broke the camel's back scenario that can start cervicogenic dizziness. And then, like you said, the progressing anxiety around it, and you were having, correct me if I'm wrong, you were also having the like feeling super weird visually in busy stores, and that's that whole kind of typical PPPD type presentation when we did.
Yeah, that was pretty intense. Like I had never had anxiety before. And I think it was, like I said, it may not be related to, COVID jabs or anything, but I do think that going from being very social, working in music, being out and about, to then being confined in my house, I think just anxiety just came up. So I think it is just coincidental. I can't say the two are connected. I do think it is just the surroundings of everything that just took anxiety from 0 to 100.
Totally. And it's always like, I think that's one thing that's normal as well, is once something like this happens, it's normal to look back and be like, what caused it? And we go through like so many, what one thing was it? And often it's like a collection of a lot of stuff. And it's just like, the one thing can often be like the straw that broke the camel's back, like I said, but it's not the only thing. Like you could have probably sat like that in that position if your stress levels have been different, everything, like, it can all add up, and that's very realistic and normal.
Absolutely.
Real quick too, I think it's always helpful for people to understand, like, what were the things that you were having difficulty comfortably doing? I know we talked about busy areas that was affecting like social stuff, career stuff, but maybe if you could just talk to us about that, because people like to know that, hey, they're not alone. This stuff can affect a lot of things in life for sure.
Yeah. So it affected my social life massively. Being out in loud, busy places was really, really hard. And like I had just said, I used to work in music. I used to do music festivals. And the thought of when I was doing all of this, I was actually getting ready to go to a huge music festival. And the thought of doing that was daunting. So it was a lot of noise, a lot of moving around was really hard. Going to the grocery store was really hard. I found actually certain lighting worked better. The grocery stores over here, they have a quiet hour where they keep the lights off and they don't have any music. So I found those stores that did those hours and I did that. But even as simple as walking down the street, if I would just be walking with my partner and we'd just be walking down the street, I would close my eyes and just try and feel it, because looking at it was too overwhelming. Weirdly, driving was okay. I felt it was almost like I had to pay more attention on everything else and stopped thinking about my own issues. Like, how do I keep myself alive?
A pleasant distraction, which can be pretty common too. And I know, like, it seemed like at the time it was, which is true for most people, just one of those things that was like emotionally, physically, energetically very draining, and making like just normal day-to-day stuff in general just feel like dragging through the day to some extent. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. And I think I found I was also waking up thinking about it and going to sleep thinking about it. Like I was obsessed. And I don't think that helped with, the more you think about it, obviously the more it's going to get worse. So when you obsess over it, it's the most mundane things become really difficult.
Totally. And I think that's a good pivot point, because like it is normal to get stuck in a mode for some period of time of obsessing over it, right? I think everybody gets into that, and it's often like, how quickly can we get out of that? Part of what I think can help get out of that is starting to see progress, right? And like once things can get better. Certainly, if you're interested in any like more specific information of what me and Rebecca worked on together, I'll link below the Balance, Integrate, Grow kind of framework in which I help people work through this. But just always curious to hear in your own words, like your experience kind of going through this, the things that you started to notice change with, what felt helpful and supportive, like just kind of your experience working through this together. If you're up for talking about it.
Of course. So actually it was two elements of working with you. It was definitely the exercises, but speaking with you felt safe. There was an element of like therapy involved with it too. Like we got to talk about like what was giving me anxiety, but then it wasn't a big part of our discussions or anything, but it could even just be enough of, I was getting a puppy. We would talk about that, just something that would just distract me. And then we would go through the exercises together.
Yeah.
And it's just, I would take those away and I would do them on my own. And it was just still that carryover of just feeling safe.
Yeah.
So the exercises were a huge help for me. I still do them every so often if I feel a little bit just not quite right.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, I think the postural piece is stuff that's always good for people. Like I still do stuff like that just for, for my neck. But yeah, just to give people context to that, like I agree completely. Part of what we always want to do is, we want to make corrections to these, nerdy kind of balance systems, but we also need the brain to interpret the world as being okay and safe. So it's like, hey, like being in your own head stuck alone with this was when I felt my worst, and just being able to talk about it with someone, understand what's happening, start to correct it and feel progress. I think for most people is a huge turning point. And I know for us is emotionally very beneficial to like, hey, change can happen, positives can happen, and that can be huge for sure.
Absolutely. And actually being able to talk to someone about it too, as opposed to just reading it. I mean, I think I got into such a hole of like, although I could see other people were saying they got better, I was just like, but maybe I can't. And it was just finally having that conversation of like, all right, I'm really not alone and I really can get out of this. Was, a huge turning point for me.
Huge. Talk to me, if you're up for it, about like the process of kind of getting back to normal life. It is if you're watching this, I'll just save you the mystery. It's always a change over time type of process, and I know you experienced that. And talk to me about the process and where you're at now, and talk to us about the present, I guess, or the change in the present is a summary question.
So we did our sessions for 3 months, and we always graded it on like I started at like a 20%. I was feeling a 70% or whatever it might be. The higher the number, the better I was. I think I came away from that, if I remember correctly, between an 80 and a 90. So I was doing pretty solid. And there was just a little bit of fuzziness there. So I think I came away from that with no more triple PD. That has been completely gone. The anxiety part of it is gone. Since then, I will go on dog walks. I make sure I exercise. I still do all of what used to be scary. Life is pretty well back to normal. There might be times where I might be especially stressed, or I didn't get enough sleep, or it's been a really big weekend. But I have all the tools now after working with you that I can like, okay, just go lay down for 10 minutes, go do some of your exercises, go do something, do some grounding, and you'll feel a bit better. So it's the stress and anxiety isn't there anymore. And although it might spike every so often, it's not scary because I know I can come back down. Whereas before I didn't think I could ever come back down. So what a change. I'm able to go out and just do all my normal, regular things that I could do before. Massive.
And 2 comments there. I mean, that's my goal with everybody, right? Like what I would like is when I'm done working with someone that they're feeling great and they understand how to continue to make progress. And like you said, for you, it was like, we were still working on maybe scaling back up into some strength stuff, but you were like, hey, you don't need me to watch you do that for 6 months. Like you have the plan to do it on your own. And then just the understanding that like, when things are super chaotic and stressful, it's understandable that your brain's still getting used to that. And you need to continue to be nice for a period of time and maybe take more breaks. And I don't know if you felt like that's true, but that the amount you need to kind of be cautious continues to decrease over time in my experience, and life continues to just like become more normal and you think about it less and less and less. I don't know if that's been true for your experience, but
I mean, I don't think about it at all, but I just know that when it happens, it's okay. Like, I
Yeah.
know it's a very temporary thing. And I usually, like I said, I usually know it's stemmed by something, whether I didn't get enough sleep or it was a
Yeah.
particularly stressful day. Or, maybe I had a migraine, because I still get migraines, not as
Yeah.
often, but I still get migraines. I still get vertigo attacks. I'm probably going to say once every 3 months. It
Yeah.
does happen, but I know that it's like, I don't need an MRI for it. Nothing's wrong with my vision. I don't need to go see an ENT. I know I have all of the tools at home. I know it will pass and I will be okay. And I think that was the biggest thing, was like, I didn't feel okay before, but now I know, like, it will go away. It's not permanent.
Totally. And I think it's good to note, right? Like, even before we met, you had come in with the history of migraine episodes and all that. And it's like, hey, our goal was let's work on the things we can control and fix and get you back to that point. And certainly something like migraine is something that unfortunately can be like, hey, we manage it with different tools. And so like if you're watching this, like, that's a very reasonable goal, is we can get you back to that level of where you were before this started in a way that was so substantially disruptive in your life, for sure. So
I would say, though, that the one thing that has been gone ever since we stopped seeing each other is the pain. The pain has never come back, ever.
Good.
So that was huge, because it went from behind my eye, down my head, down to the tip of my shoulder, and that hurt. That hurt really bad.
Yeah. And just, if people are watching this at home, I won't get that. You were dealing with a pretty classic example of cervicogenic headaches. This picture is not perfect, but it's just the one I have pulled up. When there can be excessive pressure in this upper cervical area, especially with that prolonged looking overhead is probably what triggered it. It creates too much pressure and it can irritate the joints of your upper neck. And very common, a cervicogenic headache creates like a pattern into your face, jaw, and head. And the pain can be extremely intense. And working through that physical correction of imbalances so that one area is not being excessively pressured is the kind of solution. So if you're watching, just to give you some context of kind of what she's getting at and how we fixed it. But maybe I'm giving way too much nerdy information that no one's curious about. But usually the comments are like, well, what did you do to fix it? And I'm like, okay, I'll try my best. And just to kind of, so I'm not the only one kind of backing this up. When people ask me that, it's not that I don't want to give them a simple answer, but if you look back to the things we did, it was a course of things over months, and there was dozens and dozens of different stuff. Does that feel fair to say?
We didn't do, every time we met, the exercises were different. We didn't do the same thing every week. There might have been one or two things that seemed to be helping, but it wasn't just, it wasn't a one fix all. It was, we were constantly developing and improving it.
Yeah. So if you're watching this, it's not because I don't want to type the one fix all thing in the comments. It's because that doesn't exist. Like, it's always a process of progression and change over time. So just so you're not mad in the comments, I promise you, if it was a one-time fix all thing, I would type it in the comments. I'd be a multimillionaire. Everybody would be happy. I'd be sick. It's just not how this works, unfortunately.
Your job would have been so easy if you just did 15 exercises every week.
I'm down for that if it existed. It just doesn't. But yeah.
No, well, I'm able to pick things out from each of our sessions still, that whatever might be bothering me, it'll be something different.
Yeah, that's awesome. Any last stuff that you wanted to kind of get across? I know we had to be done in a few minutes, but any last things you wanted to get to?
I think I think like what we talked about before we started recording, it is worth sharing again that, people aren't alone when they feel this, and it's not in their head. And it's okay if Googling is what brought you here, but also it's worth knowing that it doesn't last forever. It goes away. And I think that's just really important to just really, for lack of better words, drill into people's brains.
No, for sure.
It does go away.
Yeah. The reason I like doing multiple ones of these, because I can tell my story, one person can share their story. Having multiple people do it gives people hope. We're social creatures. We want to see social proof. We want to see that this works. And so it's just understanding that you're not stuck can be incredibly powerful. But I just want to say thank you for taking this time. I know sometimes talking about this isn't the most fun thing. I think you're at a place where it's easier to look back now, but it is difficult to share your story. So I appreciate you being willing to do that. And it does legitimately help a lot of other people. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah,
So,
anytime, however I can help.
yeah. All right, everybody. I'm gonna pause the recording.